please.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Dudley.
Present.
Mr. Farmer.
Here.
Mr. Ingram.
Here.
Dr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Scarce.
Here.
Mr. Warren.
Here. I would ask that you would observe a moment of silence with us, please. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there items to be added to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to remove item 10B1 from the agenda and also add Finance Committee recommendations as item 13A.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the changes?
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. Okay, we're down to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously. We're down to item 8, presentations, and we have several resolutions to present tonight and some certificates, so I would ask that all the board members go down front so we can do these in the order they fall on the presentation list. And Ms. McCluster, will you let us know which ones we got?
I will. Yes.
May I get Sergeant Zelk and Sheriff Taylor to join us down front for the first presentation? So each Friday we get an update from our chairman, and within that email update we have several reports and happenings that go on during the week. And this presentation tonight is one that we received in the last few weeks, and it spoke out to me specifically, but I know all the other board members behind me also support this resolution tonight. So at this time, I'd like to read Resolution 2021-09-03. It's honoring the life and service of canine Zwei. It says the following resolution was adopted at the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors meeting on September 21st, 2021. Whereas canine Zwei was an active deployed dog with the Pittsylvania County Sheriff's Office for the past 7.5 years. Zwei's task was trailing humans that were unable to be located and has performed successfully with this detail, accumulating on 68 confirmed fines and assisted in several other investigations. On August 3rd, 2021, Zwei was showing signs of erratic characteristics and was taken to a local veterinarian, where it was deemed that he was no longer medically suited to continue work due to an enlarged tumor in his chest. This led to the final diagnosis that Zwei had an incurable cancer due to its progression. Sergeant Michael Zelk, Zwei's handler, was able to bring him home once more before he was put down on Thursday, August the 19th, 2021. Sergeant Zelk stated that it had been a great honor to work with such an amazing four-legged partner. Every day, police dogs courageously serve an important purpose for many police departments and communities across the Commonwealth. So therefore, let it be resolved that the board honors the life and service of Zwei, who heroically spent years in the line of duty to protect others and officers, and we offer sincere condolences to Sergeant Zelk for all those lives who positively were impacted by Zwei. Adopted on this day, the 21st of September, 2021, Robert W. Warren, Chairman, David M. Smitherman, Clerk, Board of Supervisors. Would you like to say a few words?
I'm overwhelmed. Thank you. This is my partner.
Yeah, we had discussions about what was an appropriate way to do this tonight, and fortunately that the dog, it was not, it didn't lose its life in the line of duty, so that would have been a whole nother level of honor that we could have performed tonight. And I think we may still have some other ideas that we could tie the pet center into Zwei's life and other canines. So just want to say thank you to my board members for supporting this. Thank you to Sheriff Taylor and Sergeant Zelk for all that you do for us. Thank you.
I'd say this is probably one of the coolest parts of this job is getting to surprise people. If Miss Vicki Taylor would come up here, please. While she's making her way up here, let me say that there's probably not very many people in the city or the county that hasn't been touched by Vicki Taylor. And after I read this resolution, you'll know why. Come on over here now. I think you taught him at one time, Mike Taylor. Okay. It is such an honor to read this resolution to you. And on behalf of my colleagues here, we're very grateful for all that you've done. And it reads, the following resolution was adopted at the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors regular business meeting on September 21st, 2021. Whereas in 1971, Vicki Taylor was hired as an assistant professor of sociology at Danville Community College, DCC, serving DCC from 1971 until 2021. And whereas she was the first student activities leader, and whereas Taylor served as DCC's representative on the Chancellor's Faculty Advisory Committee for many years, and whereas she has also been a longtime advisor for the college's Upsilon Phi chapter of International Honor Society Phi Theta Kappa. Tore that one up. Winning numerous awards for her leadership and work for the students, which are all from the city of Danville, Halifax County, and Pittsylvania County. And whereas Taylor led the charge with that's it. Members for Lead Denham yearly, where money was collected for the Susan B. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. And whereas Taylor was also the recipient of the 2005 Outstanding Faculty of the Year Award, which was voted on by her peers, and whereas during the DCC Educational Foundation board meeting on May 17, 2021, Taylor was recognized for 50 years of service at DCC, and it was announced that the DCC Educational Foundation had established the Vicki Holland Taylor Professional Development Fund in her honor to provide funding for DCC faculty professional development needs during the 2021-2022 academic year. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the board expresses their sincere appreciation to Taylor for her noble dedication of time towards the education of county citizens and congratulate her on her well-deserved retirement. Adopted this 21st day of September 2021, Robert W. Warren, Chairman, David Smitherman, Clerk of the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors. When I was at DCC, I had two teenage kids at home. I had a toddler and I had a newborn on the way. And she was so good to me. What I meant by that is that I passed. But my VA benefits were running out, so I had less than 2 years to hurry up and get all the education I could. And so I went full time. And it was people like Miss Taylor that not only inspired me to go after that education, but to tough it out, because it was some tough stuff. And I know Sheriff Taylor was right there with me. I think he was a year or so before me. But anyway, and she is also a breast cancer survivor, so she's a tremendous inspiration to so many people. But you mean a lot to me, and I thank you for all that you've done for so many people.
And I thank you for this and the board, and Bobby over there is one of my former students also. Everywhere I go, I run into someone I have taught. I have never used a microphone to teach. I don't usually have to. My voice booms. It's been my privilege to teach students from Pittsylvania County, Halifax, even from Martinsville. They come all the way from there also many times. But it's been my privilege to teach for 50 years and to be of service. And Vic and Mike and Bobby and all of them were good students too. And that's not a FERPA violation because you're not students anymore. But thank you very much for this. I appreciate it.
And I think there was some other folks from DCC that came out. I know Sherry and
Yeah, she was in trouble.
I can believe that. So she did fool you?
Oh, she did.
Okay. But anyway, did y'all need to get a picture? Okay. Yeah.
You don't mind taking a picture with us?
Oh, not at all. Hey, gentlemen, are you kidding me with men?
I do want to clarify that I came long after Vic and Sheriff Taylor. I was much younger.
And I came when I was 5.
Yvonne DeThornton for Vic. Yvonne DeThornton.
If Yvonne DeThornton would come up here. This is a pretty cool night of surprises because not only did Vicki not know this, Yvonne DeThornton didn't know this either. And they in part work together. So I'm going to get whipped twice, I reckon. Okay. Come on up here. And I did want to thank Kenny for tricking you and getting you over here, but we want to present you with this resolution. It's number 2021-0905, and it's a resolution honoring Yvonne DeThornton's retirement. The following resolution was adopted at the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors regular business meeting on September the 21st, 2021, whereas Yvonne DeThornton was hired at Danville Community College Education Support Specialist 3 in the Office of Admissions in October of 1989 and served through 2021. And whereas Thornton was a recipient of the 2005 Outstanding Classified Staff Award, which was chosen by her peers, and whereas she is also the past chair of the Classified Staff Steering Committee, and whereas Thornton was also the recipient of the Fred Lloyd III Memorial Award presented by the Alliance for Excellence, and whereas Thornton was a graduate of the Leadership Southside program and served 31 years at DCC, now therefore be it resolved that the board expresses their sincere appreciation to Thornton for her noble dedication of time towards the education of county citizens and congratulates her on her well-deserved retirement, adopted this 21st day of September 2021, given under the hand of Robert W. Warren, Chairman, Board of Supervisors, and David W. Smitherman, Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors Clerk. Thank you. I got to tell y'all this story. We had a baby together, and I know that sounds bad, but Yvonne and Kenny and Debbie and I went through Lamaze together, and part of that training is you trade partners. Well, golly, I'm not doing good, but anyway, you know, talk about the technique and all that stuff. So I often tell people we had babies together, and we did. She had Brittany and we had Kelly Ray. Kenny, if you would come up here and maybe your mom and dad, so we can get a picture, and y'all might want to say something. Oh, yes, and Brittany, please come up. See you, sir. Oh, yes. I guess let me get where you on the end. So.
Everybody look at me. Everybody smile. Awesome. Everybody happy here?
Thank y'all. And Miss Thornton, y'all wait 1 second. We just need to go ahead and keep them all up here, because this was a trick on top of a trick. When I learned that you guys had celebrated 63 years of marriage, we couldn't let that slip by without presenting you with something. So, Mr. and Miss Thornton, I have a certificate of recognition, and it reads, the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere congratulations to Mr. and Miss Thornton on 63 years of marriage. James, go ahead. James Mervyn Thornton and Mary Magdalene Thornton were married on August 9th, 1958. Mr. and Miss Thornton are both lifelong citizens of the Cascade community and are very active at Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church. Mr. Thornton retired from the trucking industry, and Miss Thornton, who is affectionately referred to as Miss Mag, has spent her entire life raising and taking care of their 2 children, 4 grandchildren, and children of the entire community. The board would like to congratulate you on this amazing milestone, and we hope that your marriage continues to be fulfilled with everlasting joy and pleasure. Happy 63rd anniversary, Mr. and Ms. James Thornton. I gotta tell you, I gotta tell you a story on Mr. Thornton. Debbie and I went into Hobby Lobby one night looking for a little table, and we saw it at the very top of the rack. And I asked the clerk, I said, do y'all have somebody who could crawl up here and get that for me? And she said, yeah, hold on, let me get the clerk or whatever she called you. Here comes Mr. Thornton. And he climbed at the top of that rack, getting that little table, and I told Debbie, I said, look, I hope he don't fall, but if he does, you try to catch him. And if he needs first aid, I'm here. Anyway, but we thank y'all so much. It's not many people can brag about being married 63 years, and y'all something. Anyway, thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Davis.
Oh, you good. Thank you, buddy.
Mr. Davis.
This is Resolution 2021-0908. This goes out to the White Oak Worship Center's Music Festival Logistical Support Appreciation. The Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, the board, adopted the following resolution at its business meeting on September the 21st, 2021. Whereas the Blue Ridge Rock Festival was held from September the 9th, 2021 through September the 12th, 2021. And whereas White Oak Worship Center extended an invitation to allow the county to use its conference room as the unified command center for the duration of the festival. and it was furnished with kitchen equipment and everything needed to sustain the operation. And whereas throughout the week, church members delivered snacks, water, soft drinks, and coffee, and on several days, they cooked and delivered both lunch and dinner for the workers, as well as prayed for a safe event for all. And whereas security team members were there until late in the night, early morning each day, assisting with needs, and they also helped with bus parking and assisting the festival attendees who were walking. And whereas after all their efforts and hard work, they would not accept any reimbursement for the use of their room or utilities. And whereas Pastor Roger Ewing, White Oak Worship Center's security team, and their church family were the kindest host and were a true Christian example of what we should all be about, and therefore, be it resolved that the board sends its sincerest appreciation to the White Oak Worship Center for its willingness to help where needed and for opening their church and hearts to the needs of the county on behalf of the Blue Ridge Rock Festival. Adopted on the 21st day of September the 2021st, Robert Bob Warren, Chairman, Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, and David M. Smithman, Clerk, Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors.
I attend White Oak Worship, and my pastor is on vacation this week, so he asked me to accept this honor for the church. I just want to thank him and our church family for what they did. Really enhanced the public safety of this festival we had a week or so ago, and I can't tell you the number of compliments I got from the public safety people, the Sheriff's Department, State Police, and lastly, our county staff. They really opened the red carpet up for these guys. And again, it really enhanced the public safety for the community. So I accept this for the church. Thank you.
Thank you. I got this.
Mr. Dudley, and Marilyn Waller is here to accept.
I'm sorry?
Marilyn Waller is here to accept.
Could I have Marilyn Waller to come forward? Tell you one thing, let's give her a hand as she comes. Let's do that. I'll make them feel real welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This is a very unique certificate here, and this could actually pertain to somebody that's sitting in the row with you. And as I read it, you'll understand. And this is Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, National Domestic Violence Awareness Month of October. Virginia, at its business meeting on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021, the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors Board adopted the following proclamation. And it's going to be a lot of whereases in there, so just bear with me. Whereas 1 in every 4 women, 1 in every 10 men will experience sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner during their lifetime, and approximately 15.5 million children are also exposed to the domestic violence every year. And whereas an average of 3 women in the United States lose their life every day. And in Virginia, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have experienced some form of physical violence by an intimate partner, and domestic violence in the leading cause of injury to women. And whereas children exposed to violence can experience serious long-term consequences, creating difficulties in school, post-traumatic disorders, alcohol, drug abuse, and criminal behavior. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, their security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and or abuse. And whereas it is our obligations as citizens and leaders of this community and government officials to just take a strong and united stance against violence. And if I was in church, I could get an amen right there. Amen? And whereas domestic violence doesn't discriminate and is prevalent in every community. People of any race, age, gender, sexuality, religion, education levels, nationality, or economic status can be a victim or a perpetrator of domestic violence. And whereas victims of the violence should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing that they need. And domestic abusers should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. I could get another amen right there. And whereas we encourage domestic violence victims and their families to seek assistance for appropriate victim services, organizations, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline, which is a 1-800 number, 1-800-799-SAFE. And whereas it is important to recognize the compassion and dedication of the individuals who provide services to victims of domestic violence and work to increase public understanding of the significant problem. And whereas as a community, we should dedicate ourselves to protecting vulnerable members of our own society. We have a moral obligation to prevent domestic violence and to address its brutal, destructive effects. Therefore, the board does hereby proclaim October 2021 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in recognition of the important work by domestic violence programs and victims, service providers, and urges all citizens to work towards elimination of domestic violence. I wish it would all come to an end, but it doesn't. And that's where we need to be aware that it's out there. And we got good folks like these right here that's trying to help us with this. So given under my hand this 21st day of September 2021, Robert Bob W. Warren, Chairman, Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors, and David N. Smitherman, Clerk, Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors. And I think these ladies deserve an awesome hand tonight. How about that? Whoops. Anything that you can take your mask off if you got something to say. Now, would you like to say something?
I was summoned to speak. Okay. Just thank you all so much for this opportunity to raise awareness, and hopefully this, as more awareness comes about, that we all will be able to acknowledge it, recognize it, and continue to take that stand to end this important issue that impacts many people.
Good afternoon, everyone. We represent Haven of the Dam River region. My director, our executive director, Deetra Betts. I am Marilyn Waller, the sexual assault agent here in the Chatham office. We are located here on Main Street at 38 Main Street, and we do open Monday through Friday. Anyone that needs our assistance, we bid you to come by to see us. We do operate and we cover City of Danville and Pittsylvania County. We thank you again.
All right. And let's get a picture right in the center. How about right here? Yes, sir. Y'all squeeze on in a little bit. All right, ladies. Thank you. And let's be sure to speak to these ladies and give them another hand. How about that? After the meeting. Is that it? Okay.
This is the Dave's Broadband presentation.
Vic's walking out on us. Right here? I got it. You can have it. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. It gives me great pleasure to present to you all an update of the county's ongoing broadband project. As of the 14th of September, county staff have been working with the West Piedmont Planning District Commission as well as River Street Networks on a grant application through the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative to provide broadband access to the unserved areas of the county. We submitted this application through the West Piedmont PDC along with 5 other counties in central and southside Virginia. And the total project for Pittsylvania County equates to approximately $75 million with a planned number of passings, which is basically the term the industry uses for residences, businesses, or community anchors such as churches and facilities of that nature. There we go. All right. I'll stay right here. Okay. One of the, I would say, most rewarding parts of working on this application was seeking letters of support from the community. What we found when we reached out to members of the community is we obtained an excellent cross-section of representatives of the community that really highlight the importance of broadband as it relates to multiple facets and aspects of community vitality. So in terms of education, it's pretty apparent to most of us that if you're going to be, in school working remotely, such as many students have been during the pandemic, it relies on a solid internet connection. And we received letters from parents indicating that they had to travel up to 15 miles away in order for their children to submit homework and receive lesson plans. We also heard of stories where parents had to allocate certain time blocks in the evening for one kid to be online while another one had to be offline so that they wouldn't, overly strain the network because it just wasn't so robust. We also received letters indicating from local businesses that discussed how difficult it is without a good, reliable internet connection to invoice and bill their clients and customers, which then equates to limiting the potential for growth and adding new employees and things of that sort. Then we received letters that discussed health care and the challenges that not having a reliable and high-speed internet connection presents when telemedicine is not an available option, or even going online to receive a diagnosis from a recent medical test. And then in terms of faith and community, we received a letter of support from a local minister who said it was very challenging when he had to stream all of his church services through Facebook Live, and he was, really felt like that, participation had fallen off because much of the congregation didn't have access to reliable high-speed internet. So, along with letters of support that were requested to accompany this application for the grant, we also were required to provide a memorandum of understanding between the Board of Supervisors, the county school board, as well as the internet service provider, which is River Street Networks. And essentially what that memorandum of understanding states is that all parties agreed to work together to attempt to secure funding and establish policies and procedures that will promote and sustain a market for broadband availability. And that we intend to work toward delivering a product and services that meet or exceed business and industry standards, which currently the definition for broadband is defined as 25 megabits per second download and 3 megabits per second upload. Well, through this partnership, River Street Networks has agreed to provide 100 symmetrical broadband access, which is exceeding the current industry standard. In terms of funding, the funding for this total $75 million project, roughly, $16.5 million would come from Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors and the school board. which of that 16.5 million, roughly 12 million comes from the American Rescue Plan Act, and then revenue sharing would make up the difference, or roughly $4.5 million. River Street Networks has also pledged to provide $19.6 million as a match. And then we are seeking $39.5 million from the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development. So we've already touched on the number of homes or passings that this project is intended to reach, nearly 12,000. But this is fiber to the home. This is probably one of the highest quality. It's not just the quantity, but it's also the quality of the service that we're foreseeing being available through this endeavor. And we also partnered with other localities because we see strength in numbers. There's other localities across the Commonwealth, right here in Central and Southside Virginia, that are in the same situation as far as having limited access to reliable high-speed internet. And then there's the component that's built into this partnership. It's revenue sharing, and that allows this to be self-sustaining. So the county is going to continue to work with River Street Networks and the school board to seek out other funding opportunities, as well as the revenue sharing piece, which is just simply going to go back and reinvest into the broadband expansion plan that is intended to reach, ultimately, hopefully, all of Pittsylvania County is the target. So what we're ultimately trying to do here is close the digital divide for county residents. And again, this is a huge step forward, I will say, in closing that gap, in closing the digital divide. And while we recognize the county's size certainly presents challenges, as well as the topography and its rural character for some areas, this partnership is going to be critical for us being able to overcome those challenges and to be able to forge ahead to provide what essentially is an invaluable service that relates directly to overall quality of life. So in support of this partnership and its tremendous potential, and on behalf of the Pittsylvania County Executive Team, I would like to request that the Board of Supervisors consider memorializing the Memorandum of Understanding with the school board and River Street Networks.
Mr. Burton, if you would come forward and bring your colleagues that are on the school board so they can be part of this. Yeah, you might want to get in front of the screen if you want to be seen. Hey, back it up so everybody can stand in front of it too. So we can get them on the sides and get some depth to it. As has been mentioned earlier, this is an unbelievable night for the Board of Supervisors and the school board and River Street. We appreciate so much them partnering with us and providing us this opportunity. Our county is the largest landmass county in the state of Virginia, and that does create some unique challenges. And we realize that the last couple of years, even to a greater extent, with not having adequate broadband and, of course, internet services countywide. So we're trying to start and implement something to fix those problems. This will touch everyone's life ultimately in this county. It will make us more competitive for economic development. It will add a tremendous benefit to our students in their learning abilities. and it will help them to be more competitive in the world we're in today and the global economy, with the opportunity for so many people and the necessity for so many people to work from home now. It's just imperative that we provide these services. So we're happy to be participating in this, and I'm going to ask Mr. Burton to have a few comments from the school board, and then I'll let him pass it to River Street for a few comments before we actually do the signing.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. First thing I want to say is I'm grateful the Board of Supervisors and River Street bringing this to us, giving us the opportunity to participate with them in this program. He's already mentioned everything I'm thinking about economic development, about education, but I'm sitting there and looking at the sheriff. That's going to help the sheriff too. It's going to help this whole community. And I've been doing this a long time. I didn't think this would come to fruition, and here we are. In the time frame they're talking about, it's going to cover most of the county that doesn't have service, but with the uniqueness of having reinvestment, it will continue on and eventually cover the whole county. I have wireless now, wireless, and if you've got wireless, you know when a lot of people get on it, it slows down. This doesn't happen with this, and this is going to be a big benefit for all of us. Again, thank y'all for letting us be a part of it.
Thank you. My name is Eric Kramer. I'm the president and CEO of River Street Networks. I really want to thank the County Board of Supervisors, the school board for their commitment, a significant commitment with their financial contribution. This has been a project that has been months in the making, a lot of planning, a lot of meeting, a lot of discussing the impacts of this project. Working with Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Arnold, presenting to both of the boards, vetting us as a company. We've been building broadband networks for 70 years. We're a cooperative. We're based in North Carolina. We've made significant investments in Pittsylvania County with the purchase of People's Mutual Telephone Company, which began as a hobby in 1881 with the Fitzgerald family. It became People's Mutual Telephone Company and over 101 years ago. And so we are looking to take what we've done in Wilkes County, which was taking a copper network that needed to be upgraded, and overbuild that with fiber to the home, which is about the most significant investment you can make as far as broadband concerned. The lowest speeds we'll offer on this network are 100 by 100. That means 100 megabits up and 100 megabits down. But everyone will have the ability to have 1,000 meg up and 1,000 meg down. That's a gigabit service to every single person that this network touches, almost 12,000 people. $75 million investment, $20 million on our behalf. $16.5 million by the county. That is by far the highest contribution we've had from any county that we're working with the state. We currently have an application with 11 other counties. We're working with 14. This revenue share is a serious commitment by everyone involved to invest back in this network. And so we invest in the communities that we service. It's a win-win for everyone. And so we're very excited about this opportunity. We appreciate the fact that the boards have chosen us as our partner. This is probably a 20-year commitment. It has to be done in 3 years. If we win this award, it will start in January of 2022. The plan is to get it done within 3 years. That's 2024. It's a pretty big build for that period of time. We've done it. We've done it in Wilkes County. We provide rural service, gigabit service to every rural resident of Wilkes County. And we're currently doing this in King and Queen County. And so we've done it before. We're going to get it done here. Hopefully we win this award and we can start this project as soon as possible and start connecting people. So again, I want to thank you all. We look forward to investing in the community and working with everyone. So thank you.
I want to say two little quick things before we do the signing, and that is thank you to each and every one of my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors. I'm sure Sammy recognizes and feels the same way about his school board members for supporting this. It will change lives, and that's the great part about all of this. It'll change lives. And I want to recognize two other people that were heavily involved in this endeavor, and working directly with River Street on negotiating this deal, and that's Dr. Jones, Superintendent of Pittsylvania County Schools, second to none, fully qualified. We appreciate that. Good work. And Mr. Smitherman, County Administrator, for the good work. And as we sit down, if everybody would get a little closer around us so they can get the proper pictures as we sign this memorandum. And you too. Okay, we're down to hearing of the citizens. Each person addressing the board under hearing of the citizens shall be a resident or landowner of the county or the registered agent of such resident or landowner. Each person shall step up, give his, her name, and district in an audible tone of voice for the record. And unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. No person shall be permitted to address the board more than once during hearing of the citizens. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual member thereof. Hearing of the citizens shall last for a maximum of 45 minutes. Any individual that is signed up to speak during said section who does not get the opportunity to do so because of aforementioned time limits shall be given speaking priority at the next board meeting. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. Yes,
Our
ma'am.
first citizen is Marion Gaines.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Marion Gaines. I'm from the Dan River District, and I'm here to make a request, to make an appeal to the board to allow the funds that were, the proceeds that were left from my great-grandmother's legacy to be released to my family and me. I was here 3 months ago, but unfortunately, I had trouble with my car and I didn't get a chance to speak. So I did bring the paper with me tonight that I wanted to speak on 3 months ago. But tonight I'm here just to say, we've been doing this for a number of years trying to figure out why we never got the rest of the proceeds. Yes, there were some technical difficulties. There were some glitches. We were told by a lawyer that we trusted to sign a paper stating that we wanted it shut down, but it would go over to the Board of Supervisors for a later date, and we could then receive our proceeds. Of course, that never happened, and we're still asking why. When I was here, I was so hurt in May because our case just didn't even come up at all. But it's okay because I'm here now, and I'm just appealing to the board. If you would just look at just some of the information that we're provided, I don't see why we can't receive the proceeds. Even to Senator William Stanley feels like we should receive the proceeds. And I just make that appeal to each and every one of you to please find it in your heart. We've been talking about Christianity tonight and all of that. So if anybody have anyone has anything to think about the goodness of God and what we have a little saying, what would Jesus do? Ask yourself tonight, if this was your family pleading for their proceeds, what's rightfully theirs, wouldn't you want them to get it? So that's my appeal to you tonight. I thank you for your attention. God bless you.
Barbara Hancock.
All right, each of you have a transcript of this. My name's Barbara Hancock, and I've been a resident of Pittsylvania County my entire life. Among other things, I'm a registered nurse of 29 years, an educator since 1997, and I manage our family business. Throughout my life, I've heard numerous stories directly from my mother, who was born in Germany 2 weeks before World War II started. Her childhood was plagued with stories of abuse from Nazis. One that sticks out in my mind is the fact that she was left-handed, and a teacher would beat her hand with a stick every time she would pick up her pencil with her left hand. Glad we don't live in those times, or do we? She always talked about how Americans were the heroes, and now here's her daughter, 75 years later, being kicked out of an American school board meeting for not having her face properly covered. I want to ask each of you, and you, David Smitherman, as the county administrator, to stop these Nazi-like tyranny of requiring anyone to have a mask on at any point in time and to let people have a choice. I'm also asking you all to stop pushing the shot that is falsely being called a vaccination and stop rewarding people or pushing them into getting it. Please see the reports that came from Project Veritas this week. I have personally talked to several who felt forced into getting that work in the county and who've been forced to get it and now have multiple health problems since they received the toxic injection, and they felt they had no choice to get. I also know several amazing workers who will not be receiving that injection, who are now being discriminated against by bosses and coworkers that work in this county, and you will lose them if you don't stop this tyranny. This is still a free country, and you as leaders need to stand for that. I implore each and every one of you, and you, David Smitherman, to stop this foolishness and make choice a priority immediately for everyone in this county. If we don't stand against tyranny, no one will. Deputy Dooley told us on Tuesday night, those of us involved, to report the following to our supervisors. I was removed last Tuesday night from a school board meeting right here in this room. I was sitting right behind me. and for wearing a mask incorrectly during a recess while I was being interviewed by a reporter. A young gentleman beside me named Michael Hall had a Trump flag laying in his lap, and a reporter asked if he could take a picture of him. Meanwhile, I picked up one of my signs and I held it up just in case he wanted a picture of that. Then the reporter started asking questions. Moments after that, Chatham Police Officer Lawson, at the direction of School Board Chairman Sam Burton, came and stood in front of me and this young man and told us that we needed to leave the building because we weren't wearing our masks correctly. The police officer had entered the room unbeknownst to me as I was sitting in the front row. At that point, I was dumbfounded. Sam Burton pointed at me and the young man beside me and said, "You were warned." And I responded by pointing out that his face hadn't been masked the entire time. He was walking around during recess and talking closely to various people in the front of the room. At this time, two ladies who were to my left decided they would not participate in the school board meeting because of the ridiculous tyranny. Both of them had masks on correctly. I want to remind you that we were about 10 minutes into a recess at this time. None of us knew the reason for the recess other than to assume it was being planned for the planned removal of certain participants. This young man had his mask
I'm sorry, Ms. Hancock, you're going to have to wrap it up.
below his mouth, and only to talk to the reporter just less than a minute before the police was standing in front of us. And I want to point out that there was an empty seat on each side of me and that young man. And let me remind you that a festival of over 40,000 people had taken place just a few miles up the road with no one wearing a mask or being required to. Let's stop the hypocrisy and stand for truth.
Lori King.
Hi, I'm Lori King. I'm here to speak on behalf of my daughter-in-law, Kristen King, who lives in Pittsylvania County. Is that okay?
Well, which district does she live in?
She lives in Pittsylvania County. Her daughter goes to Chatham Middle School.
Okay.
Okay. So this past Friday, my granddaughter, who just turned 13 a couple of weeks ago, was written up for a dress code violation. When her mom called to ask about this, she was told, among other things, "I know Mackenzie is a skinny little girl, but we have girls walking around here with little bodies resembling grown women. Little boys don't deserve to look at that." Really? I mean, my first thought is that Mackenzie's fault. This is my granddaughter, and this is what she was wearing on that day. So everything is covered. She was wearing leggings and a long hoodie that covered her bottom. It was a couple sizes too small, so you can barely see her fingertips from the sleeves. So, but little boys don't deserve to look at the girls. So Mackenzie has a very small stature. The clothes she was wearing on that day, like I said, leggings and a large hoodie. It's very hard to find clothes that are long enough. They want the shirt to come down almost to the knees. If she had a shirt that long, it would be so big on her. You just can't buy them that long. But anyways, Mackenzie has learning disabilities. She also has sensory issues. She can't wear jeans. I take her shopping for clothes, and where other little girls her age would look for the latest fashion and like to wear blue jeans, she likes to feel the inside of her clothes. She wants them to be nice and soft. As for the boys, if you look at the dress code in Pittsylvania County, it's geared all towards the girls. There's very little said about what boys can wear. It's geared towards the girls. And according to the assistant principal at Chatham Middle School, the boys don't deserve to look at the girls who are, according to her, their bodies look like grown women. And the boys don't deserve to look at that. Well, since when are we ashamed of a woman or a girl's body? Since when does that have to be concealed? It's ridiculous. And I think we're selling our boys a little short. I'm the mother of 3 boys. If I thought that the school that I sent them to thought they were so shallow, so ignorant that they couldn't even walk the hallways with the girls that are dressed appropriately in clothes that cover their bodies, that they couldn't even walk the hallways with them and concentrate on their schoolwork. I mean, I would be so furious about that. It's ridiculous. And I'm sorry, I know I'm going over. I don't think complaining about this is the thing to do. I think what we need to do is get together as a community, get together with the staff, get together with the parents.
We'll have to wrap it up.
Okay, I do have a model student dress code that has worked in other places that addresses the students, not male, not female, not gender. And I think this is something that needs to be looked at.
I'm going to respectfully ask everyone that is for the hearing of the citizens. We want to give everybody a voice, but I have to be fair to everyone, so everyone's going to have to start staying within their 3-minute time limit, because if not, then I've got to do it every meeting going forward. So we're going to be respectful for you all, but I'm going to ask that you be respectful of our rules and policies too, please.
Melissa Power.
Hello. I'm sorry. That's okay. Hello, everybody. I want to start with the Bible verse. I know it's not popular in schools or courts anymore, but since I wasn't around in the early 60s when they removed all of that, I want to start off with Ephesians 6:12, where it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the rulers of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." I feel like that's what we're seeing unfolding every single day of our lives since March of 2020. You may remember me. Last year I was here. I requested 1A sanctuary status for our county. You all tabled that motion because you were expecting a grant to create 300 jobs and you didn't want that to get jeopardized. Well, since that time, gentlemen, there's been no shortage of jobs. So that was a bad decision. What brings me back tonight is we got to see as a community in real time the most indisputable example of rules for thee, but not for me, as Sam Burton had parents removed for not wearing masks as he was unmasked. I spoke to Mr. Burton face to face the next day where he told me he couldn't breathe in a mask. Guess what? Neither can our kids. I've asked him that day for data, science, facts, or evidence to support why our children should go to school every day masked. His reply, there isn't any. There is, however, 3 NIH-funded studies that prove masks ineffective. In addition, masks cause harm. They increase viral and bacterial infections. They increase CO2 retention. They lower oxygen. They cause fatigue, shortness of breath, anxiety, just to name a few things. How are our children expected to learn this way? I saw you all up here huddled, and it's appalling with no mask. COVID poses very low risk to our children, and the transmission is very low in schools. With that being said, you approved a festival inviting tens of thousands of people into our community. We don't expect you guys to read from the same page, but at least be in the same book, because your views of a public health crisis cannot be any more opposing. We are asking for your support tonight to stand for our right of choice that is granted to us by the United States Constitution. If we are not willing to uphold and defend our Constitution, there is no future for any of us. And the world is watching America right now. They are watching us walk around in fear. And this book, that was my grandfather's, tells me 365 times to not fear. And I stand today before you with the spirit of faith. Excuse me. We would like for you to be in attendance at our meetings. I know some of you are liaisons. I've only seen Mr. Miller, who was criticized for being there for an ulterior motive, but I appreciate you speaking out against H.R. 5. Anyway, as a lifelong resident of Pittsylvania County, a graduate of Tunstall High School, I have 3 children that graduated from Chatham High School and 2 registered nurses. I would like for us all to stand in unity against tyranny and support our Constitution, or they're going to take it.
Thank you.
Marilyn Waller. And Deidre Betts. Mr. Chairman, William Phillips would like to speak. He didn't know he had to sign up. He wants to speak on behalf of the Rock Festival, if you will allow it.
Where's Mr. Phillips?
There he is.
You didn't know that you had to sign up, Mr. Phillips? You didn't know that you were supposed to sign up prior to the meeting? Okay, we're gonna give you some leadway this time. Just remember next time when you come, sign up. Okay. Well, then we really want to give you 3 minutes.
That's right. I'm all for people having a good time. This Rocks Festival, I understand they're going to have it again next year. What y'all's plan, how to handle that? I shouldn't be a prisoner in my own home for 4 days. I don't hear nothing.
All right. No, sir. Hearing of citizens is not a exchange dialogue. It's just to hear your comments and what you think.
That should never happen again. Couldn't leave, couldn't come home if I did leave. One of them people walked in the side of my truck Saturday morning, broke my passenger mirror, $242 for a new mirror. I'm all for people having a good time. But it shouldn't infringe on people that live in this area. You understand? And yes, people tell me the county made all this money. The county didn't make nothing compared to the people who own that land. And the county didn't get but a little bit of drop of that bucket. How are you going to handle it next year? Can I come and go from my home when I want to? That gentleman right there, he was talking about the White Oak Worship Center. How many patrons do you have church Sunday morning?
You have to address the board in an entirety. You cannot address a single individual.
They didn't have none at that church because there's nowhere for them to park.
Is that it?
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We're down to rezoning public hearing. Pursuant to Article 5, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, the Board of Supervisors has been empowered to hear and decide specific zoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, the board is responsible for promoting the health, safety, and general public welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. The board must ensure that all of its decisions and regulations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its prosperity. I will open the first public hearing at 8:08. And Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-21-00022, Timothy Duffer has petitioned to rezone 10.36 acres located off State Road 694, David Giles Lane, in the Chatham-Blairs election district from B2 Business District General to RC1 Residential Combined Subdivision District to allow for the construction of a single-family dwelling. The Planning Commission recommended by an 8-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to RC1, all uses listed under Section 35-266 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Duffer is here to represent the petition.
Is Mr. Duffer here?
Doesn't appear that way. I'll be happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Does the board have any questions? Okay. Seeing no questions, I'll close the public hearing at 8:09 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, in the case of R-21-022, I make a motion to approve the rezoning of 10.36 acres from B2 Business District General to RC-1 Residential Combined Subdivision District to allow the construction of a single-family dwelling. The rezoning would be consistent with the county's comprehensive plan.
I'll second that. I was at the meeting.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion or comments? Okay, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously. You'll let Mr. Duffer know his property's been rezoned.
I will.
I'll open public hearing, case number 2 at 8:10.
Case R-21-024, Samuel and Carolyn Mumford have petitioned to rezone 0.203 acres located off State Road 834 Jones Mill Road in the Tunstall Election District from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned R1. The Planning Commission recommended by an 8-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. Staff summaries enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Mr. and Mrs. Munford are here to represent the petition.
Mr. and Ms. Mumford, do you have anything you'd like to add? Thank you. Anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Close public hearing at 8:11 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ingram.
in case R-21-024, I make a motion to approve the rezoning of a 0.203 acres from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned R1. The rezoning would be consistent with the county's comprehensive plan.
I've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, please cast your votes. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. and Ms. Mumford, your property's been rezoned. We're down to case number 3, and I'll open the public hearing at 8:12.
Case R-21-026, Wilkerson Living Trust, James Wilkerson, has petitioned to rezone 0.32 acres located off State Road 733, Barker Road in the Dan River Election District from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned R1. Planning Commission recommended by an 8-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned to R1, all uses listed under Section 35-222 are permitted. Staff summaries enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Jeff Davis is here to represent the petition.
Somebody
Might
here
not
to
be.
represent the petition?
I can answer any questions if he's not.
Any questions for Ms. Rags? Okay, I'll close public hearing at 8:13 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, as Ms. Ragsdale so eloquently gave her speech there, no opposition from the Planning Commission. In the case of R-21-026, I want to make the motion to approve the rezoning of 0.32 acres from A1 Agricultural District to R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to combine with an adjacent parcel of land zoned R1. The rezoning would be consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously, and you will notify the petitioner. Thank you. We're down to 10B, other public hearings. Each person addressing the board under a public hearing shall step up, give his or her name and district, and or his or her place of residency for non-county citizens in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Speakers for a group shall be limited to 10 minutes. Speakers shall conclude their remarks at that time, and unless consent of the board is affirmatively given to extend the speaker's allotted time, absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. we're on B2, public hearing revisions to Pittsylvania County Code, Chapter 4, erosion and settlement control. Ms. Ragsdale. I'll open that public hearing at 8:15.
So the Code of Virginia requires that any locality that has not established a Virginia erosion and stormwater management program to adopt and administer a Virginia erosion and sediment control program, which we have done. That we did that by the adoption of Chapter 4, which is our building code section in the Pittsylvania County Code. That was last updated in 2001. Since 2001, a lot of regulations have changed in the state code, and a different agency oversees that program. So we went through, we revised that ordinance to make sure that it meets all current regulations, and that it mentions DQ, which is the Department of Environmental Quality, which actually oversees our program currently. So we need to adopt these revisions to make sure that we're in compliance with those program requirements.
Anybody sign up?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll close public hearing at 8:16 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion to approve the PCC Chapter 4 revisions as attached and presented by Ms. Ragsdale.
Second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please cast your votes.
There you go.
Motion carries unanimously. We're down to public hearing number 3, Virginia Code 5.1-3819, Transient Occupancy Tax Fund. Mr. Smitherman.
Yes, sir. This is the statutorily required public hearing to consider the public's input on uses of funds to be garnered from the new transient occupancy tax, which will be implemented on January 1, 2022. There's a 4% tax, 2% of which is to be obligated to support tourism in our community. And if the chair would just open a public hearing, take comments from the public, and then the board can decide if it desires to act on this issue tonight.
I'll open the public hearing at 8:17. Anyone sign up?
Yes, sir. Bill Garant, and he is speaking on behalf of the Historical Society, so he will get 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak about this tonight. I understand I'm going to have a chance to elaborate and speak more at the next business meeting, which will be next month, but I want to give you an outline of what our proposal is. I'm Bill Garant from the Dan River District. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Pittsylvania Historical Society. We are asking that you give your consideration to applying these funds, the tourism designated portion of the transient occupancy tax, to improving historic-based tourism in this county. What we're asking you to consider doing is creating a position which we suggest could be called Director of Museums and Historic Sites. It might be called Director of Tourism, Museums and Historic Sites. But this person's function would be to take advantage of the magnificent historic sites we have in this community, in this county, and 2 fantastic museums that are currently underutilized. This would enable us to have those as tourist destinations that will enable us to tap into this very large market across Virginia for heritage-based and historic tourism, and at the same time would improve the quality of life of our citizens and create new opportunities for our school children. Among the amazing historic sites that the county owns and the county taxpayers are right now paying to maintain are places like Yates Tavern, an incredible Revolutionary era, colonial era piece of architecture out near Gretna. We have these magnificent buildings, the courthouse, the jail in Callens. We now have this amazingly reconstructed Callens post office that Dale Aaron's group did that's all sitting out there. We have the clerk's office that was built over 200 years ago, the 1813 clerk's office over here behind the City Hall. There's a museum in there that has over 1,000 artifacts, prehistoric artifacts, all the way up to about the first part of the 20th century. We have material there from Indians who lived in this area. We have a presentation of the race to the Dan from the American Revolution. We have colonial artifacts. We have artifacts from the Civil War. We have architectural renderings. We have paintings by Carson Davenport and others. There's a museum in there that nobody ever gets to go to because there's no staff to operate it. Okay? The county owns the building and keeps a roof on it and cuts the grass, but it's just sitting there unused. We have the Heritage Museum that we're currently building out that's across from the train station at the History Center. That museum, which features life in the county in the late 19th and early 20th century, is wonderful. People who've seen it have given it rave reviews. We obtained a $75,000 grant from the Kiwanis Foundation last year to do the HVAC work and other construction items on that. We're in the process of submitting now another grant application. We'll submit it in the next couple of weeks for $150,000 to finish out that work. We've got a dedicated group of volunteers who have done amazing work in collecting the artifacts and putting that museum's exhibitions in place. But it's not open. Public can't see it. We open it on appointment. We open it on special days because all we have for county tourist and historic sites, all that we have are volunteers. We don't have a paid professional overseeing this. Heritage tourism, historic-based tourism in the state of Virginia generates $7.7 billion a year and $1.3 billion in tax revenue. Heritage-based tourists, that is tourists like myself who tend to go and visit historic sites, tend to be older, they tend to be more affluent. I've got at least one of those, but they tend to stay overnight and they tend to eat in restaurants and they tend to shop more than the typical tourist. So this is the kind of tourist you really want to be going for to maximize that. Now, what we propose that this person would do, and I want to say right up front that even if you didn't have this revenue stream coming in that would fund this person's position, this would be very wise expenditure of county funds and something you ought to be doing anyway, but now it's just falling in place perfectly with this tax revenue. This person's job, one of the primary responsibilities would be to pursue and obtain grant funding and public matching funds from private and public revenue sources, and they're out there. We just don't have anyone who has the expertise and the time and the training to pursue it. Other communities around us are getting them. State funds, federal funds, private funds to improve and expand public history, to improve and expand the scope of the history we're providing and to make it available to tourists and residents alike. I visited probably dozens of these small museums around Virginia and around the other North Carolina and the rest of the country. And communities like ours that have nothing on us. They're rural communities. They're not affluent communities, but they have a paid professional running these things, and they're bringing in these dollars, and they're getting the ability to, for example, fill in the gaps in the historical record, and that would be one of the primary things this person would do, as well as overseeing the facilities, managing things like public relations, social media, and planning events. If you look at Yates Tavern, what a fantastic place that would be for family reunions, but also for things like historic speakers. We have the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution right around the corner. We have a perfect location to have reenactments, to have historical presentations at that facility. But we need, in order to make that happen, we need a professional in place who can coordinate these events, who can get the money in to make the improvements out there that we need to be able to do those things. I will speak in more detail about individual ideas like that when I have a chance to meet with you again. Now, we believe that a director in that position who would be able to bring in, identify and bring in these resources, look after these buildings, make them available, even act as a docent, show people around when they show up, would bring a great benefit to the county and would be a very, very wise use of these funds. We would, at that time, be able to promote Pittsylvania County as a historic tourist destination. And we would get, for example, I got a call a couple of months ago from someone. They're expanding the American Revolution Heritage Trail, which right now is mainly oriented around Patrick Henry. They said, we want to expand it into your county. We want to identify your American Revolution historic sites. Put me in touch with your county official who handles tourism and historic sites. Well, we don't have anybody. So I just sort of beat around the bush, and I'm working with them myself, but we need to be in on that. Halifax County is going to be on it. Franklin County is going to be in on it, and we need to be on it as well. And this person could work with our existing structure. Now, I know you're considering devoting these funds to agritourism. We have agritourism exhibitions in the Ennis building. We have historic farm implements. We have reproductions of water-powered grist mills that work, that people love to see, that children love to see. There's no reason we can't all work together on this, and why not use those funds to bring attention to and promote facilities that we already own, and that the citizens are paying to maintain. It would just be the wisest use for those funds. Now, there may be other organizations that are doing work now, that are doing great work. I know ODAC, for example, doing great work. Well, ask yourself why. Because they have a very talented, hardworking, paid director running the thing. If we had a very hardworking, talented, paid director running our historic sites, we'd be hitting it out of the park too. And so that's what we need to do. The Danville Museum has a paid director running their operation. The Tank Museum has one. Pittsylvania County doesn't. And this is what we need, gentlemen, and that job will pay for itself easily with the money that'll be brought in the first year. Consider it, leave it on the table as you're making your determinations. I would suggest to you, try it. Put that person in position for a year and see if they deliver the goods and see if it's delivering revenue to this county and improving the quality of life of our citizens and protecting and preserving our heritage for our families and our descendants. And if that person's doing the job and it looks like it was a good decision, fine, continue it. If not, move on. It didn't work. But at least give it a shot. And let's take advantage of this wonderful resource that we have in Pittsylvania County. On behalf of the Pittsylvania County Historical Society, I thank you for your time, and I look forward to speaking to you again next month. And please keep us in consideration as you're deciding how to handle the use of these funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant.
Jeff Love. Sorry.
That's one, it's okay.
Jeff Love, business owner, Callens-Gretna District. Through the transient occupancy tax, Pittsylvania County is discouraging tourism. The local lodging businesses attract visitors to the county, and our customers patronize many other county businesses. The tax will make lodging in Pittsylvania County much more expensive than other areas and will encourage visitors to go elsewhere. We will be at a competitive disadvantage with neighboring counties that have no or lower taxes. If all proposed new taxes and tax increases are approved, our guests will be paying 10.3% in taxes. Our industry has been adversely affected by COVID-19, and coming after a struggling industry will only create more issues for the affected businesses. Executive orders essentially closed our business for 2 months. Some businesses have already permanently closed or may close as a result of COVID-19. The Delta variant is once again discouraging travel and is having a negative impact on our industry. It will take several years for our industry to recover. The tax is not a true pass-through tax for local businesses, in contrast with a statement made on September 8th. We have expenses related to the collection of tax, including credit card processing fees, fees to change software and forms, and time and expense to process tax returns. Sorry. Pittsylvania County allows on-site camping for events at non-campground properties such as Blue Measure Amphitheater and Old Dominant Agricultural Theater Tuplex. We lose significant camping business to those venues. Are the event venues subject to the transient occupancy tax, or are they avoided since they aren't coming to the operating as a business? The event venues should be the Pentry VOTAC of any taxes or fees, since they are the ones that benefit financially from their events. Also, since the venues are not properly set up as campgrounds, they are likely in violation of health department regulations, especially the ones related to wastewater disposal. Although 2% of the can be spent as general revenue. The additional 2% must be used for tourism. Our local association, PCVTA, hasn't been consulted per the requirements from Virginia State Code 58.1-3819. As such, we believe the board is in violation of the code. Since none of the businesses or organizations were consulted, how did the board arrive at the additional 2%? We're concerned that 2% of the taxes will not be properly used to promote our business. As a local lodging business, we prefer to make our own marketing decisions and not pass those decisions to a government entity.
Thank you, sir.
That's all, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Okay. I'll close public hearing at 8:30. Okay, I'm gonna let you go this time. But
My name is Sonia Ingram. I'm from Pittsylvania County, and I currently live in Danville. Virginia Tourism Commission's 2019, excuse me while I take this off, report showed that revenue from tourism reached $27 billion in Virginia. And this is a 3.4% increase over 2018. And as Mr. Grant was saying earlier, many localities in Virginia have tourism departments that are funded and they're able to fully take advantage of these revenues. And these include 2 counties adjacent to Pittsylvania County, Halifax and Henry County. A few years ago, excuse me, Pittsylvania County had a fledgling tourism department, but it was, they did a great job with the small amount of funding that they had. And I assume that's why it ended. But now we have a new opportunity for tourism with the transient occupancy tax. We also have a new music venue. We have Smith Mountain Lake and VIR, and we have 3 rivers. We have ODAC and the wineries. And we have many historic sites that are just as important as any other historic sites in the state. But I just want to say these assets are not fully celebrated, they're not marketed, and they're not protected. And they need to be what a lot of people say, put to work for us. I will add, and this is similar to what Mr. Grant said earlier, that because we don't have a tourism department, we are missing out on grants that we could take advantage of, and we're missing out on a lot of statewide initiatives and programs. Mr. Grant mentioned the Revolutionary War Trail, but there are other trails such as the Civil Rights and Education Trail, which end right at the Pittsylvania County line. And it's not because we don't have important historic sites related to the Civil Rights and Education Trail, it's because we don't have a tourism department. So I would encourage you to use these funds to create an official tourism department, hopefully in collaboration with Danville, so that we can bring all of these natural, historic, agricultural, scenic assets into consideration. And I just want to echo Mr. Grant as well about heritage tourism. Pennsylvania, Preservation Virginia, the organization that I work for, we did a study a few years ago in conjunction with VCU about heritage tourism and the benefits. I'd be happy to send that to you. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Now I close public hearing at 8:34 and entertain the board's pleasure.
I make a motion, we table it.
That's what I was going to say. We want to,
Well, how about you make a motion, we table it?
Mr. Chairman, I want to make the motion that we table this till next month because we we have more research to do on this, and it may, we're tabling it to next month just for research because we're not ready to make a decision, in my opinion, from the discussions we've already had in the business meeting to put or implement anything in motion to perhaps the end of the year, if then. So anyway, I would like to table this to next month. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on the motion? Motion is to table. Okay, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously to table. We're down to public hearing revisions of Pittsylvania County Code, Chapter 35, the Division 11. I'll open that public hearing at 8:35. Ms. Ragsdale.
County staff is proposing revisions to Pittsylvania County Code, Chapter 35, Division 11, Industrial District Light M1, which is Pittsylvania County Code, Section 35-387, which is the maximum height of buildings, and Chapter 35, Division 12, Industrial District Heavy Industry, which is M2, and that's Section 35-406, to increase the maximum height of structures in recognized industrial parks from 80 feet to 120 feet. And this would not apply to any M1 or M2 zoning classification. It would only apply to those zoning classifications that were located within recognized industrial parks. And this is to accommodate increases in technology and the needs of businesses that are locating to the county. We have spoken with local fire departments and the City of Danville's fire departments, and due to increase of technology on their ends and increased ladder heights, et cetera, they don't feel that this is an issue.
Okay. Somebody else sign
No,
up?
sir.
No one signed up?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing at 8:36 and entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the Pittsylvania County Code amendments as attached and presented.
Second. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Ragsdale, just for the public's information, when you get to a certain height, aren't you required to have some fire suppression within the
So
building?
building code doesn't base it off of height of buildings, it bases it off of the use. So any industrial manufacturing use groups are going to require sprinkler systems anyways per building code.
Which would typically be the industries we're talking about.
Correct.
So it, like you said earlier, but I wanted the public to hear it, this is not going to put an undue burden on our fire departments and that type thing, because the
Correct.
entity itself would have to have its, be a self-contained fire suppression. Is that correct?
Yes. All of these use groups require fire suppression systems to be installed at the time of construction before they could open.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously. Unfinished business, Mr. Hunt, do we have any?
No, sir.
Okay, new business. Do we have any that anybody's aware of, not already on? Okay. Matters from work session 13A from the Finance Committee.
Mr. Chairman, we have this just at block vote for the board to approve all of the recommendations from the Finance Committee. For the edification of the public, we started meeting today at, I believe, 3:30, and we had a Finance Committee, and we reviewed ARPA funding, capital improvement fund usage, a communications technician position, use by Climax Fire Department for Public Capital Reserves Fund, and appropriations for painting 3 water tanks.
Okay. Board's pleasure.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve all the recommendations from the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motions? Okay. Seeing none, please cast your votes. Motion carries unanimously. Board member reports. Started with Mr. Dudley last time. Mr. Ingram.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately, last month I asked you to remember Police Officer Bonnie Jones, and she passed away from COVID. And then just a matter of days after that, Nick Sapanakis, who was well known in the Danville area by way of his record service, as well as being a lifetime member of the Danville Lifesaving Crew, he passed away with COVID. And then Thomas Huffman, who was a lineman for Chatmoss Cable, he passed away a few days ago, also with COVID. So I would just, once again, encourage people to do what they feel led to do as far as the vaccination and the mask, and just take care of each other. And on a bright note, a dear friend, a native son of Pittsylvania County, Peyton Sellers, had a great racing year. He is not only the national champion, but he's a track champion at South Boston Speedway as well as Dominion Speedway. And if he wins this Saturday night at Martinsville, he will win the Virginia Triple Crown. So y'all be pulling for him. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Mr. Farmer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to take a moment to recognize what a historical night we had already with the signing of our memorandum between River Street Networks and the school board and, of course, the Board of Supervisors in terms of our broadband outreach that we're trying to do. It's not very often that we can make a decision that affects so many people in such a positive way. So just really excited about where the future leads us to with that. Also, just a few thanks on the Blue Ridge Rock Festival. I'd like to recognize our sheriff and all of our fine men and women with badges that were able to keep our citizens safe along with all of our guests from out of town. I think we did a fabulous job doing that. And also recognizing the citizens. This is the largest event we've ever that's been held in the county, and it takes all of us to make it successful in terms of our appreciation and our patience with traffic delays and other items. So just want to say thank you for everyone for their patience, and look forward to many more to come. And then lastly, we have a group of citizens here tonight. We didn't call it out by name, but earlier in the consent agenda, we passed a resolution to acquire the Callens Post Office. This is a building that was owned by Roger Jefferson, and he graciously sold it to the county for $1. And I'd like to recognize Dale Aaron and all the volunteers, the men and women that helped put time and effort into that. We've heard a lot of comments tonight about where the Historical Society, the different avenues that it could potentially offer us and benefits here in tourism and so forth. So that's a great example of what we're capable of. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Would that group please raise their hand so we all can see who they are? Thank you very much for the work. Thank you, Mr. Farmer. Mr. Dudley.
Yes, sir. I was wondering, I had seen that group and I didn't see them involved with anything, and I said, I don't know what they're here for, but let's talk about them anyway. But thank you for bringing that out tonight, Mr. Farmer. Appreciate that. And also thank you all for coming out tonight, speaking, voicing your opinions on things. It's not a bad thing to come up and tell us how you feel or how things are going on, that you view it. And you're talking also to board members, but you're talking to citizens as well. I'm a citizen in my county, and I am one of you, and I think it's important for you to voice your opinion. Thank you all for coming out. Appreciate all the speeches that was made tonight. Also want to thank the Sheriff's Department for what a good job they did with the security there at the festival, and thank David and various ones that had to take the reins on some things, and I really appreciate everything that you do. Sometimes me and you don't get along, and no, we get along, but I really, really appreciate David. David does a good job, and I'm pretty proud to be able to work on the same level with him. Thank you all. I want to thank our staff too. Everything that we've been doing tonight, we've seen it on the computer. Our staff does it all. They have it laid out for us, and our meetings are set up by them. We have to show up and vote and sometimes argue back and forth and talk back and forth on things, but they really do a great job, and I appreciate everything that they do, the executive team,
And, you know, I don't always tell the guys up here, but I appreciate every person that's up here, because it's a lot of responsibility to take on a district and take on phone calls and take on complaints on a daily basis as a supervisor. And, you know, we don't always tell each other, but I appreciate each and every one of them, the work that they do. Most of it goes unseen, and it's just a lot done, but I appreciate them as well. Thank you for my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Dr. Miller.
Yes, sir. I have a quick comment to make. And for those who are aware, I'm going to make reference back to our consent agenda, and that being item H. And what that is in reference to is the lack of a sidewalk on the north end of Chatham. Of course, you know, where the town limits are at the end of Main Street, right there at the corner of Pine Street and near the Community Action Agency. But if you go about another half mile past the north town limits, there is a sidewalk up to the corner where you go into Chatham Elementary School. And that, of course, is through the African American community. Well, I have spoken with our executive team that I would like respectfully to petition that we go to work and to see if we can get a sidewalk established and put in from where the sidewalk ends at the entrance going to Chatham Elementary. That's the old Central Elementary School, and proceed north up to Friendship Road, which is the last street to the left before you go across the bypass bridge. And there again, this is through the African American community. And it has come to my attention that this would be a very much desired improvement to the entrance to Chatham, Virginia, and through the African American community. And of course, the reason that the proposal would stop at Friendship Road is because there are no other houses beyond Friendship Road and the bypass. And of course, some research has been done on that already. And I believe it's the Highway Department has assessed that to install that segment of sidewalk would be a little bit more than $500,000. And of course, also, as we know, that everybody, including the African American community, pays taxes to the state and to the Fed. And I would respectfully believe that this would be definitely an improvement for the African American community, as well as a beneficial improvement to those coming off of Route 29 coming into Chatham. So I believe our county administrator and our county attorney, as well as other staff, are going to be working to see if there are potentially state and federal funds that can be applied for tax dollars as well as potential grants to see if we can't put the funding together for that approximately $500,000 or a little more for that improvement. And any help that, of course, can come from the other members of the Board of Supervisors is honored and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank Caleb, doing a great job as usual with the IT department. I want to thank the county assistant administrator for a good job today, good work. I want to thank the county attorney who has been doing very good because I've asked him to do certain things that he is doing in our open sessions. I want to thank Mr. Richard Hicks, the Colonel. Mr. Garant, I do want to thank you for enlightening the county as well as I of the gold mine that we have here in historical artifacts that I was not aware of. And I do appreciate you taking the time coming out, appreciate you what you do for our district and our Keelan Fire Department and have in the past, that is. And I do want to compliment the young madam that came from Danville as a follow-up. I do appreciate that. I do thank you for the revenue that could be generated, but not only the revenue per se, but the educational benefits of future and posterity generations to come. Then I want to mention a dear woman in my district who passed away, a widow woman who had probably just about every accolade and every award from the ACLU to the NAACP, Ringo Fire Department, and on. She passed away last week, and I did not have an opportunity to go to the wedding. Pardon me. She did have a wedding because she was back with her husband once again. But I could not go to the funeral because I had a particular house that had water in the basement, and I just couldn't make it. I'm sorry. And her name is Ms. Mary D. Brooks, but we look forward in the future to recognize her as a soulmate to my district. And I do ask you for her prayers for her family. And I want to thank the staff for their unprecedented work at the event that was somewhat diabolical at first, that was turned around. And I want to thank Mr. Smitham for his expertise, who was in the wee hours having to garner certain organizations to come in and clean up everything. And I do appreciate his experience. And then lastly, fire and EMS personnel as always, and those who stand guard these meetings every month. I want to thank these two guys. They're my friends, and they do a great job, and I'm thankful for them. And then I want to thank, lastly, the vice chair as well as the chairman who attended many of the events right along in this Ragsdale, who went in incognito. No one knew what she was doing as she was watching around, see any types of violations that were being carried out at these events. So I shouldn't have probably said that because she'll be there at the country western operation. But nevertheless, I want to thank these people that put it in place and make it a success. And I'm thankful to carry the water for these guys. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Vice Chairman Scares.
I'll try to be quick. For the benefit of the audience, we passed a water project in my district earlier today, and on behalf of those residents, I want to not only thank the county staff for working diligently to get this project through, and also my colleagues for approving that water project. I can truly tell you that it's going to enhance the health and the lifestyle of those people who, their well systems for almost every property in that neighborhood were failing in some way or another. So again, I want to thank my staff, thank the staff, and thank my colleagues for allowing that project to go through. And I know the citizens will, in that area, will appreciate everything we've done for them. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Scares. I do have several items. Some have been mentioned tonight. I'd like to thank Mr. Ingram in particular for mentioning Nick Sapanakis, a big part of the community and a real giver. As Mr. Ingram mentioned, he is a life member of the Danville Life Saving Crew. And most of you know he owned Nick's Towing for a number of years, but he was also a member of the Mount Hermon Fire Department. So he didn't just give to one organization, he was given to two. And I can tell you categorically, if you were in an auto accident trapped in a car, you wanted Nick there, because He was one of the highest rated in the state of Virginia for extrication from a vehicle. So he will be greatly missed. And so please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers for that. And also, I really appreciate everyone coming out, not only this meeting, but every meeting, and expressing their interest and concerns. I do think it's imperative that we remind everyone that just similar to our constitutional officers, our school board is elected officials. So we really don't have authority over their policies and procedures and setting things. They operate independently, so it's not like we can go in and do anything heavy-handed concerning their operations. So, you know, I hope things will continue to improve in that area. You know, I know we don't always agree with policies and all, but I will tell you the product that we're getting out of our schools from an educational standpoint is a big driver for economic development in our area, and they do a really good job with educating the students outside of boardroom policies and everything. Those frontline people that are teaching our children and administrating the buildings are doing an outstanding job. So as you express your concerns, remember to continue to thank those frontline teachers and administrators in those buildings for having the oversight and safety of your children and the educational responsibilities of educating those children. And lastly, on my comments tonight, I want to talk about Blue Ridge Rock Festival that occurred. Gosh, it was, you know, the largest single event in this whole region, not limited just to county. There's just not been anything like it in our area. So it did come with quite a few problems, and we knew that going in. We tried to think of everything and tried to mitigate as much as possible, but of course you just can't predict some of the things that occurred, both that were within your control and then some that were not. I would like to recognize the state police for the great job they did, our Sheriff's Department, Virginia Department of Health, VDOT, our Community Development Department, and Public Safety. They all did an outstanding job. And again, as been mentioned earlier in some conversations, I'd like to thank Mr. Smitherman for the good job he did, and the sheriff in working in unison together to really take control of things outside of the venue as far as traffic and pedestrians and moving everyone in a safe manner following Friday morning. So thank you very much. Job well done. You know, they were able to reach out and get some assistance from a couple of our partners we need to mention. Pittsylvania County School Board stepped up and provided us with some buses. They were compensated for the buses on a very high schedule, so it wasn't something that cost the taxpayers. You actually benefited, made some revenue off of it for the school system. And also, they were kind enough to do some rerouting of some traffic on Wednesdays and Thursday when we had the biggest congestion, which really benefited that. Also want to thank the city of Danville for providing us also through the school system a few buses, and they provided us with some additional lighting that was used along R.L. Smith Road in order to light that up to protect the pedestrians that were commuting on foot through those areas. So you can never have enough friends and enough colleagues and municipalities willing to work together, and that was very evident as we got in those stressful times. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank those individuals and those communities for their assistance. That's all I had, and Mr. Smitherman, do you have anything?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I won't go into great detail on the Blue Ridge Rock Festival as that so many people have done a good job doing that, except to comment that beginning Friday morning, what I saw was a significant group of experienced professionals taking a bad situation and making it much, much, much better. And I appreciate very much the opportunity to work with the professionals in the Sheriff's Department, Virginia State Police, and Public Safety, and other agencies that were there helping us throughout the event. This is the first time we've gotten together publicly in a large group since we had the announcement for Tyson Foods, which represents the largest single employment and investment announcement probably in the history of Pittsylvania County, with close to 300 people and $300 million of investment in a Fortune 100 company. It's big news for the county and big news for our partners in the city, and we are super proud of our joint economic development staff for the great work they did in landing this flagship industry. And finally, I want to comment about the internet announcement that was made this evening. This is a significant, significant project. Our problem in Pittsylvania County is over $100 million problem of getting everyone internet. And this is $75 million toward that goal to be implemented in 3 years. It's a significant project. The county has stepped up with $16.5 million worth of commitment, and we are going to, with this project, ensure that every person in Pittsylvania County that is not presently served will be served with high-speed broadband internet access. And I thank the Board of Supervisors and the school system, as well as, or the school board, I should say, and River Street Networks for the great partnership that we have formally approved this evening, that we've been working on for many months, and for the years of relationship, successful relationship we will have in the future. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Hunt, do you have anything tonight?
It has been pointed out to me that in all the celebration and great news surrounding our broadband project that we never actually officially voted to accept the move. So before we adjourn tonight, it would really mean a lot to me if y'all would take a vote to formally approve the execution of the broadband project move between the county, the schools, and River Street.
I make that motion. Or somebody, I'll second.
Everybody made the motion, so you pick, and we're going to do it.
I'll do the second. I didn't do the motion. How about that?
We're just going to take a voice vote on this one.
Stephen, did you make that motion?
Absolutely.
I made the motion. Ron did.
Joe Davis.
I made the motion because I was the one that bird dogged this the whole time anyway.
Somebody hurry up so we can get out of here. Don't matter.
I make that motion.
I second.
Okay, motion made, second. Any discussion on the motion that hadn't already been said? All right.
All right, Mr. Dudley.
Yes.
Dr. Miller. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Farmer.
Yes.
Mr. Ingram.
Yes.
Mr. Scarce.
Yes.
Mr. Warren.
Yes, and thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Attorney, for, or whoever told you so. We didn't
He-
want to leave you tonight without that.
He finally made a comment at the end of the meeting. He's never done this.